I'm getting more wine.
No, help yourself. $36 a bottle. Please, enjoy it.
Yeah,
I personally believe that luck is a real thing. The best example I can think of to back this up is World Peace airing in 2016, just before the presidential election, on one of America's biggest TV networks. Whether Million Dollar Extreme straight up lied in their pitch to Adult Swim, or Adult Swim was feeling slightly suicidal that day, is still up for debate. With only those couple tidbits though, you can probably already see why I think it was incredibly lucky that World Peace even lasted 6 episodes before Turner Broadcasting finally fucking murdered it.
Self-defense situation.
Of course, I'm saying all this under the assumption that you've seen World Peace before, so before any actual review or retrospective, I'm gonna go through a brief synopsis of the show so everyone can be up to speed on what I'm talking about. Ready? Let's go. World Peace was an Adult Swim sketch comedy that lasted just 6 episodes between August and September 2016. The show was both written by and starred in by Sam Hyde, Nick Rochefort, and Charles Kroll of Million Dollar Extreme, with additional help from Andrew Roos, who, fun fact, directed Joji's Glimpse of Us music video as of recent. MDE built their reputation in the early 2010s with stunts such as trolling a TEDx group with 2070 paradigm shift.
What inspires me is teaching African refugees how to program JavaScript.
And other classic pre-World Peace sketches such as Officer Maggot.
Circumstances.
You ever hear a shut ya?
Shut your
Shut your mouth.
Yep.
What? Ever hear a quit ya? Quit ya bitchin'.
In early 2015, Adult Swim ordered a full season of an untitled MDE show, resulting in the final product, World Peace, which aired worldwide on August 5th, 2016. The show magnifies many perceived issues we face, such as organized fame, everyday vices,
I'm a bad father, but to me, being a good gambler was better than being a good father.
certain styles of parenting, negative views on being masculine,
My mom said soldiers are hyper-masculine and bad for the world.
a deeply flawed education system, despising your deeply unfulfilling 9-to-5 job, and many, many more. The show did incredibly well viewership-wise, and it was looking like a second season was on the table. Unfortunately, that optimism was short-lived, as a couple weeks later, a BuzzFeed writer took offense and made a whole article calling the show alt-right. Although the article didn't do that well, Turner Network did take notice, and when they saw Unfortunately, by December, World Peace was no more. But there is a silver lining, which is the video where the BuzzFeed writer attempts to interview Sam for some reason, and it goes about as well as you'd expect.
Blogging and tweeting until you are dead, and nobody will care. Nobody will ever read anything you wrote and say to themselves, "Man, this is important!" And you will never get a job at the New York Times. They'll look at your resume and they'll go, this guy's a fucking idiot. One more thing. I bet when you were a kid, your parents called you dumb. They probably called you a blockhead. Because you're a blockhead, Joe.
I'm just having trouble hearing you because you're screaming very loud.
Yeah.
That wraps up my very summarized timeline of World Peace. When the show ended, MDE was basically blacklisted from Hollywood and Charles Kroll left the group. Since then, they've made pretty much next to nothing. Except Sam, of course. Long live the Candyman.
I'm gonna call out in the heavyweight division.
Oh, you know it, lad. You know that Hassan Piker? I'm coming to kill you! In Los Angeles, at your house!
Or in the ring.
No, in real life.
Starting off with some broad positive statements, the show as a whole is beautifully well shot. Specifically though, in the end credit music segments, with the rope scene at the end of Teachers, or the entire segment at the end of The Man Who Would Never Be What They Made Him to Be. You get the idea. World Peace also has a great soundtrack, which I've been using for this entire video for background music. The main soundtrack by Brian Ellis is 45 minutes long, but if you put all the contributions together, it's almost 3 hours of music. When it comes to the acting, it's all pretty good, but Nick Rochefort specifically knocks it out of the park in every scene he is in. The others, they're pretty good, but no one sells a scene in World Peace like Nick does.
Point fingers at me, and she's gonna crawl around on my $1,900 rug, bleeding from her eye sockets and trying to tell me that I shoved her through a goddamn table. You're crazy as she is.
I think you're right.
You owe me $2,000.
Also, the graphics between scenes are really, really good. They always catch your eye. It's always something different. It's always something new. It's always something fucking weird. Unfortunately, the quality of the slides can vary quite a bit depending on which version of World Peace you watch, because in some versions, they are completely censored, and in some versions, they're just there for you to see. But that's an explanation for later on. Next up, we're gonna go through some of the scenes which I think make World Peace World Peace. Keep in mind, my explanations of the less straightforward scenes are just my interpretation of what's going on, so if you have a different interpretation, let me know in the comments, or just tell me I'm wrong.
Day, bright star, Alex, and that's my...
I think this scene really tackles the hollowness of TV show fame. Here we have Nick and Sam fucking lighting up while this chick is singing, and then they feign interest at the end.
Weeks at a time, you know? It's the kind of thing that when you hear someone sing like that, you just know right away they're gonna make a shit ton of money with it.
Which is heavily exaggerated, of course, but that's the point. Nobody really cares for these things. They just see, okay, well, is this person good for the camera? They are? Oh boy, money time. Quick side note, going off Sam's expression here, they most definitely made this girl think it was an actual talent show. Incredible stuff.
It makes me nervous to think that if I ever had to reapply for my job, I wouldn't be hired.
If you are going to watch any of these scenes before I talk about them, it should be Teachers. Teachers could be a short film by itself. It's that good. The skit follows Nick Rochefort as a burnt-out public school teacher, jaded about the same topics being told day in and day out, lamenting that if he had to reapply for his job all these years later, he would absolutely not be hired. My take on the beginning of Teachers is that for the person teaching, school can be just as much of a mental jail as it can be for certain students. The skit also goes on to criticize government educational structure and neglectful parents for their part in a less adjusted new generation.
I didn't make the kids stupid. That's on the parents. That's on the government.
I'm really not doing the scene justice with these small clips of it though, so I implore you to go watch it because I think this is one of the only scenes in World Peace where everyone can at least sympathize with the plot. Oh, also, as stated earlier, the ending goes incredibly hard.
My mom said soldiers are hyper-masculine and bad for the world.
Future Peace is the last sketch in the last episode of World Peace. It's also the last example sketch I'm going to use. It follows the accounts of a group of adolescent guys playing football. These include medicating your kid into an NPC, online grooming because no parent is present, being told what to think, being told that masculinity is bad.
My mom said soldiers are hyper-masculine and bad for the world.
Being opposed to growing up, and having incorrect thoughts. Future Peace always stuck with me because I felt like the show ended with a warning that if you aren't always there for your kid, or if you don't let them speak and think freely, then you're gonna end up having raised another jaded member of society. I really like this one, as similar to Teachers, it's more of a serious look at a topic rather than ironic skit like most of World Peace. And that is where I think World Peace shines, in those genuine pieces of sincere storytelling that happen every so often. Considering this is a review segment, I thought I'd be giving a score at the end of this video, but all I can really think to say is, please just watch it for yourself. Sure, I personally think it's a 4.5 out of 5, but World Peace is the kind of show where everyone's gonna have drastically different interpretations and opinions on the piece of work. Or in other words,
Thank you, Whitey. Yo, but you're better.
So earlier on in this video, I spoke about the accusations of World Peace being affiliated with the alt-right. And if you look at some of the skits without context, you probably think they're onto something. I don't think it's any secret that MDE loved pushing the boundaries. You see this logo? This is the original World Peace logo, but it's not the logo that aired on national TV. That's because the original symbol was the symbol found in the Batman shooters and notebooks. Most of the really cool graphics mentioned earlier got axed as well right before airing, with some of them being mangled this badly. In late 2016, Sam went on a talk show to discuss the intentions behind World Peace.
The show itself is not like there was no point where we were writing it where we were like, we've got to write this one in order to get this message across. Like it's not a political show. The racism and sexism in the show is on par with what you would have seen on TV in like 2002.
While I don't think either of these statements are exactly true.
He's named after his father. My only goal in life is to make sure this little demon isn't brought up to be like his daddy.
I think any claims of aligning the show with the alt-right are just completely overblown. You can make a show by 2002 comedy standards, but if it's in 2016 that it's made, people will judge it from a 2016 comedy standpoint, and there is nothing you can do about that. I think that's probably the biggest mistake they made when defending World Peace. And it's also the mindset that probably would have gotten them cancelled before their second or third season if Joe Bernstein hadn't gotten them cancelled in the first place. Also, considering the climate in 2016, I'm almost certain any political journalist would take anything that wasn't as explicit as a knock-knock joke too hard and try and use it as fuel. So to wrap up my thoughts on the whole controversy section, I think it was a show pushing way too hard at the worst possible time in media history to do so. So now I can turn my attention to some controversial scenes that deserve a bit more context. Starting off with Jews Rock. For the first 30 or so seconds of Jews Rock, you see people jumping up and down on a kid's television set preaching their love for the Jewish people. This seems like shock humor at first and maybe even slightly malicious. Although it is definitely meant to shock or confuse, the entire mood of the scene changes when the cameras pan to Adult Swim executives in the room while this is being filmed and no one even caring. In the end, it feels more like a "I can't believe you're letting us do this" jab towards Adult Swim than anybody that's actually Jewish. The other sketch I want to go over is the Toss It Project, which starts as a skit parodying social movements.
The premise is simple. Just take the most hurtful thing anyone's ever said to you and write it down on a styrofoam cup.
The premise is mostly mocking how people victimize themselves online, but then he says this.
My race is done. You're inheriting the earth, along with some other undesirables. And that's cool, bro. High fives. But check it out. Just remember who built this place, alright? Remember to pay homage to the white man.
Now, personally, I'm inclined to believe that this is part of the victim joke thing. But that's a really ballsy thing to say in a fucking skit. To cover my ass really quick, I don't agree with everything I hear in World Peace, I just think it's a funny show. I will finish off this about the allegations section though by saying, if there's anything Joe Bernstein could have actually stood on and said this was alt-right, it would have probably been this skit. Any prospects of a second season on a different platform are pretty much impossible, because MDE as it existed no longer exists. Charles has refused to work with Sam since World Peace ended because he believes Sam's erratic behavior on Twitter directly led to the show getting cancelled and not Joe Bernstein. Although likely somewhat true, that's a story for another day. The bottom line here is MDE without Charles Squirrel is just any other Sam Hyde-led sketch. I seriously did not give him enough screen time in the World Peace stuff. He was born to play schizophrenic. Just look at his MDE clips.
Remember me? Get down. My daughter. No, it's my daughter now, Sonny.
Put this up to your head. I want you to hold it up to your head while we discuss the rest of the pitch.
Make sure your finger's on the trigger.
Hear that sound? You die 1 second at a fucking time. You know what? Get the fuck out of here.
As for what they're all doing now, 6 years later, Charles streams, Sam never stopped making stuff, and Nick Rochefort sells antiques. He also occasionally comes on Sam Hyde's show to rant about cars. World Peace today stands as a brilliant example of what happens if you make the art you want to make while going against the general public opinion. Sure, you may face a lot of backlash and you may attract some bad actors, but what'll matter most is the stuff you made will stand the test of time. I've been Evan Fell, and thank you for watching.
Painfully, Nick believed me in a submission.